Hey, this is Christian Buckley with CollabTalk.
Hey, this is Michal Sobotkiewicz with KanBo.
We're talking about really the evolution of search in some ways. It's a slightly different topic than just search, but is discovery and what the role of discovery is. I mean, increasingly in our applications, having this discovery capability. I mean, so Michael, I mean, what is the role of discovery, I mean, in your product within KanBo?
So, discovery to us is something that the information finds you. So it means that if you are in a certain context, and as you probably know, Chris, I mean, KanBo is about context. I mean, you've got the boards, the groups of boards, and then the lists, and then the cards. So the system actually always knows where you are. So that means it knows which people are involved and what is the topic, what are the documents involved, what is the discussion, if the discussion is fresh or if it's a little bit older and if it's overdue. So imagine whenever you jump into something, the system already knows a lot of what is going on. And based on that, it provides you with information based on all its context information. So the more exact the context, the better the discovery process. And so basically, before you even start searching, the discovery process or the algorithms are getting you the information you will most probably look for anyway.
Right.
And this is how we understand discovery.
And I think that it's surfaced. Most people are familiar with this. Of course, Microsoft came out with the Delve as a product, and there was a push for a little while of leveraging the Delve UI as a destination. And so you heard, internally, some Microsoft people saying like, "This is my new homepage." Well, now there's so many different homepages that are out there, and I think the evolution of Microsoft's thinking about it as well is that. Discovery is not so much as a single like Delve landing page, which for some people that still may be the best first page when they log into their environment in Office 365 is to see that. But whether you have an intranet home, whether you are using Delve or your home pages, your KanBo is your list of your boards. That's that board home page. With all of the different projects that you may have going, that different people, different working styles might have different needs there. And the discovery process is really something that's embedded or in part of each of those experiences. And so, as you said, it's based on the context of my profile. So my search habits, my conversations that I've going on, my personal and professional networks, the projects that I'm assigned tasks to, all of those things, where now you have the artificial intelligence, the machine learning that's going and looking at these interactions, looking at the patterns of my collaboration habits, and based on that saying, before I've asked for it, gone and searched for it, it's saying, based on these patterns, based on what we see as your footprint every time you're on a project that's similar to this, that these may be of interest to you, these sites, these people, these topics, and then surfacing that content, those conversations, those people to you that may be relevant. And that's a valuable thing. I think that there's so much research that's been done around social networks, and I'll use it as a great example about Facebook and Twitter. As you go and look at those user experiences, and on the sides you've got those annoying advertisements and all the things out there, but there's also a tremendous amount of discovery activity. So people that you should know, or groups that you might want to join, or conversations that are happening, because what they've discovered is when left on your own just to go and search and find those things, you don't go outside of your echo chamber of the people that you know, the topics you're familiar with. But through this machine learning, that you then start introducing things that widen your view of the world, of the problem, of the topic that you're invested in. and it will be related, but maybe on the edges of the context of what you're working on, but then may spark some thought, some innovation, take you in a different direction, and give you access to ideas, concepts, and people that you might not have otherwise found. And Michael, I always use the example when I joined Microsoft back in 2006, and we had an early version of a SharePoint profile that was not out there and available. It was a behind the scenes, Microsoft employee, our home SharePoint environment. Is we had the ability to go in and build in our profile all of our likes and interests, and those likes and interests became keywords. Well, there was no guidance. Like if I started typing in the word, just think like project management, if I spelled it differently than somebody else, it didn't come and like correct and say, hey, here's already this category of which there are 500 members. There was nothing like that. It accepted whatever that you took. So that meant that in the early days, if I had a typo, it would take it and it would become a link. And unless somebody else also made the same typo, I would never find anybody else with that shared like. But anyway, so I go into my profile and I add in PLM, which is product lifecycle management. It's a manufacturing centric class of collaboration technology. And so I've spent a couple of years working in that space. So I added to my profile. And of course, it took about 24 hours for the servers to refresh, for the timer jobs to run for my profile. But once it was on my profile, I went in and clicked on, in my own profile, that keyword. And instantly I found 2 other people inside of Microsoft who had added PLM as an acronym inside their profile as an area of interest. And they happened to both be salespeople over in one division that was focused on oil and gas. And oil and gas, if you're not familiar with that segment of the market, there's a lot of money behind the companies that are in that space. And it was early days of SharePoint, and back in 2006, and these guys were trying to get time on somebody at the SharePoint product team to come and work with them and talk to these customers. I call them and I find all this out, and I ended up doing a couple calls with some of their customers. So you have like Exxon Mobil and Shell and Marathon and all these massive companies. And so I just bring up this example to say that to automate that, rather than me having to go through this pain of finding people, the discovery process now would recognize that these individuals are talking with customers that are having these conversations around SharePoint collaboration, and might be talking about the integration with their massive PLM systems. I have in my profile that I'm involved in PLM. It knows through my LinkedIn profile that I worked with a company that's being, former company that's out of the Microsoft ecosystem, that's being discussed in this context. The system then, the machine learning, puts us together and says, hey, you might want to connect with this person. I would never otherwise have ever found these 2 individuals if not for that link. That's what the discovery process then automates. Very long-winded description of that. I just like it because it was a cool story that brought a real example of success through that discovery process. Very manual in the early days, but that's a lot of what we do now, where we dynamically get served with these options to go and connect with people and concept and content that are out there. So with all of that, so again, I look at, if I'm working in a project, if I'm working with KanBo and I'm having conversations, what's the future of the discovery process where I'm working in very specific context? How does discovery work and help with that?
What we like about Delph is, of course, that this people discovery process now, I think, enriched with LinkedIn will be just amazing. And incorporating this service into KanBo as being part of Office 365 and consuming it through a Graph API is just a great advantage when we, let's say, compete with companies outside of this great ecosystem. So this is just great. But we would like to, this is if it comes to people, but what we are working now is the knowledge management aspect. So identifying pieces of knowledge. I cannot say more because this is a little bit confidential.
Right, I know we're kind of then the cutting edge of what you guys are working on right now.
And then basically, based on where the information or where the knowledge was created and by whom, we can then find very easily, since the context in KanBo is so granular and so exact, another, I call it situations, where this knowledge just perfectly fit. So as people work, they probably per day, they create, let's say, depending on the organization, but they create a vast amount of knowledge pieces. Mm-hmm. And now having the ability to basically tag them and organize them by the exact context where it was created, it's kind of not very hard using artificial intelligence to basically find other contexts which are, very similar. I'm talking about 90-95% of similarity, and then bring those pieces in. And so we see that the discovery, as it's now called, is already something that people are looking for, which is knowledge management. And today, knowledge management is a very manual task because extracting knowledge is kind of hard. And with this very granular context, we can easily find knowledge, and that's one part of the equation. But the other part is having it categorized, also very exactly. So then putting it into really as a benefit to the one who is in that situation, who is in that context. So not only people, not only documents, but pure knowledge that basically exists somewhere in the chats, somewhere in the interactions, and so on. So this is a very big topic, and this is going to be huge. And I can't wait to play with the prototype.
Well, and I think that's a great point. The context and level of granularity that KanBo provides around the card, and why this is a game changer for knowledge management and this discovery process is, as you've pointed out, is the fact that you have all this rich context that's around. It's not just like I go into a search and I get a document and I still have to kind of dig to understand who's involved, where is this, how old is this, how relevant is this to the things that I'm working on. You get that rich context. So I might see in that discovery process get suggested a document. As I go and investigate that, I can see that, hey, it was part of this card and in this context, and see the related materials around that. That the discoverability of the related content may improve because of its relation to that direct connect of that document. So again, if I'm just doing a search, I may find that one Word doc. I may not find all of the other rich context associated with it. Now I'm finding all this other content. I can go see the conversations as part of that or related to that context. And then maybe find people that didn't show up in my first 10 pages of people results of search, but was part of that discussion and had a perspective and experience that is exactly where I need to go with this project. So I always like to say that search is about, tell me what I'm asking for, where the discovery process, tell me what I'm not asking for, but that I need to know.
Yes, very good definition. And before that you explained, that's actually how search already works in KanBo. So when you really search, then you will not find single pieces like, disconnected tasks, documents, people. No, you will find cards which are relevant to you. So when I search for a certain, let's say I search for Nokia, then I will find different results than you will find, because KanBo already realizes how many cards and which cards you are visiting, which cards in your my board, in which card you were mentioned, in which cards you are writing the most. And this is the relevancy sorting is different based on your behavior. And this is how the results already include what's most relevant to you. And of course, because we also provide you cards as results, you will find the whole context, is not only parts of it. And another one that is actually released this week is that when you create a new board, there is this IntelliSense telling you that there are boards that contain content, not names. I mean, if there's a name, then the board is even higher in the ranking. But there are boards already that you have access to because they are public or whatever, that actually are about the topic you are just about to create. You might have an interest to go there and maybe check them out before you create another board about something that is already there. So this is also some kind of a discovery. And last thing about that, when we develop this stuff, we have always to be aware about the users on-prem, because we do not have a Delph, we do not have a huge Azure machine learning there. So until now, we have managed to find always a replacement that it's maybe not that sufficient and maybe not that easy to deal with as machine learning from Microsoft, of course. But there are, of course, replacement, and we use them to have discovery, to have search, and to have, for example, a bot, which also uses the same technology, to be also present for companies that cannot open to the cloud now, or maybe never, whatever, but would like to, get this competitive gain anyway. So it's always twice as hard for us to provide a feature, because we always have to think about our customers on-prem. And but the discovery and the way how we see it stays the same in both worlds.
Right. Now, yeah, and obviously there are advantages when you have a hybrid or cloud environment and being able to leverage all of that and what Microsoft is doing. When Microsoft talks about the discovery and delve and the Microsoft graph, that it's all has that cloud component. If you are entirely on-prem, it's having some of that similar capability that and that user experience. But you're going to have the power of the graph and of that true discovery process when you have the cloud component there.
Of course,
there are options whether you're on-prem or online. So
exactly, yeah.
Right. Well, it's a great topic, because I know there's a lot that's happening in that space. There's some fantastic people that are in the Microsoft world that talking about discovery and delve and the Microsoft graph. And Ina Arenas is a great example of that. If you've not seen any of her videos, I highly recommend. But Michael, I know that we're going to be talking more on this topic as well, especially as once we see some of the new features coming live from KanBo. So thanks a lot for your time today, and we'll catch you for the next one.
Yeah, you're most welcome. Thank you very much for the time, Chris. Bye-bye.